Hello.
Good evening.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. This is the minutes from January 19th.
In your mailbox?
No.
There's stuff in your mailbox.
Anything good?
I don't know. I have to open up that.
really earnest on it. What's this? Oh, my picture.
Oh, okay.
Oh. Yeah.
Planning.
You on Monday night? I studied the map. Where'd you get that?
That was from, Rachel.
Who?
I'm just prepared. Voting now. What's that? No, I requested this like a couple months ago.
Zoning map?
Yeah.
Get in your mailbox? Oh.
Oh, I don't know, when did, well, it shows Ray as mayor.
It got updated recently, so that probably is.
Well, I got this a couple.
Like within the past couple weeks.
Well, this one says Ray as mayor on it. So.
Okay, so then maybe.
It's not. Yeah.
Or well, you know what, actually, you know what, I think it got updated earlier this spring, but we couldn't print them until just,
Okay.
that's what it was.
We'll get it in our mailbox, right?
Hey,
I would think so.
Can I get
I can
one
check with
this
Rachel.
size though? I prefer this. Oh, okay, good. Yeah, not the 11 by 17 doesn't cut it. Okay, well then I guess I can recycle this one. So. It's not good. There's no.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, we're
We just answered
Oh.
show.
yeah. Just an FYI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so. I know, we're just like. Oh, thank God these.
Oh, the air's on.
Air is blowing. Can you see my sweat on TV?
All right, so get this.
Still, it will still have to, by sign language, because David's worried it'll come apart.
They're doing one of these.
Hello, Mr. Chairman. Oh, you know, I'm sorry, it's the page after that one. We still will have to deal with the
Oh,
next page. It's the page after that. My golly, that's a lot.
This-
Yeah, this, because this is a.
right here, this is
Yeah.
this one here, right?
Yeah,
Outdoor.
yeah. Might still have to do that.
First?
Right.
Pardon? Yeah, right.
Well, that's the thing, well, I mean, it's an alternative.
It's outdoor,
I
right?
saw he
Yeah, it says outdoor entertainment
like,
sign is
Yeah.
prohibited instead of,
Yeah.
Just doing the alternative, I mean, you don't have to get a new language from staff then?
Well, the thing is, it's, can we make a motion?
Yeah.
Yeah, to come back.
Because we have to approve the ordinance from that amendment.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I don't think that did cross my mind.
No, good.
Don't think that did cross my mind. Yeah, yeah.
I work when I crack it open, just water.
They are.
That's short. Right?
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. With the time being 7 o'clock, I'd like to call the June 14th Planning and Development Committee meeting to order. Can I please have a roll call?
Stellato.
Here.
Zolkida.
Here.
Leitner.
Here?
Baumgart.
Here.
Bancroft.
Here.
Weber.
Here?
Lencioni.
Here.
Trilla.
Here.
Wirball.
Here.
Messner.
Here.
Alrighty. We have quorum. We can proceed. Next up on the agenda, I would like a motion and a second for the omnibus vote for items F and G. So moved by Ryan Baumgart, seconded by
Second.
Brian Wirball. Roll call, please, on that.
Zolkida.
Yes.
Leitner.
Yes.
Baumgart.
Yes.
Bancroft.
Yes.
Lencioni.
Yes.
Trilla.
Yes.
Wirball.
Yes.
Messner.
Yes.
Stellato.
Yes.
Alrighty, moving right along. First, we have a presentation for the concept plan for Charlestown Lakes that will be given by Ellen Johnson. Hello.
Good evening. This is a concept plan submitted by Patrick Cook, representing D.R. Horton for the 28-acre site commonly known as the Oliver Hoffman property. It is a residential development, and Patrick Cook is here tonight to present the plan.
Anybody speaking, if you could please give us your name and address just so we have it for the record, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, good evening. Patrick Cook, 621 West Jefferson Avenue, Naperville, Illinois, 60540.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thanks for the time tonight. As I just mentioned, I am Patrick Cook from D.R. Horton. With me tonight is Vince Rosanova from Rosanova and Whitaker, and Jack Endy, Land Project Manager at D.R. Horton. D.R. Horton is the contract purchaser of the property being discussed tonight. We were in front of Plan Commission last month. Very positive reception. We are back in front of you tonight with a very similar presentation. As you may also recall, the current owner of this property, then the contract purchaser, was in front of Plan Commission in the fall of 2020 with a very similar concept plan. They have since closed on the property, and we have worked with them since then to get to this point tonight. Our intent this evening is to give a brief overview of the project, listen to your feedback, and then answer any questions you guys and gals may have. As a quick overview, D.R. Horton is one of the country's most experienced home builders, building high-quality homes across a diverse brand portfolio that includes Emerald Homes, D.R. Horton, Freedom Homes, and Express Homes. Prices range from the low 200s to over $1 million. Named the 2017 Build of the Year, we currently operate in 88 markets across 29 states. Last year, D.R. Horton will have closed 65,000 homes across the United States. D.R. Horton has had a presence in Chicago for well over 50 years, much of that coming from our predecessor company, Cambridge Homes, which D.R. Horton acquired in the late 1990s. We are currently active in over 30 communities across Chicago, closing more than 700 homes in 2020. We have the local expertise to get complex and high-profile projects across the finish line. One of our most successful current projects is the redevelopment of the Motorola campus in Schaumburg. Certainly, as time allows, I encourage you all to visit that community, as the product we are building there is wholly similar to what we are proposing for Charlestown Lakes. The main difference being, in the middle photo there, is a more urban style of architecture used on the Motorola campus. The packet Ellen put together did a good job summarizing the history of the parcel and what we're looking to do here. However, at a high level, this property was annexed into the city in 1991, and while it has remained undeveloped, a 2006 proposal from Walmart resulted in a 2009 consent decree, which put in place some key parameters, notably the north-south collector street, specific zoning, and the need to come in via a PUD. Current ownership presented a similar concept plan in the fall of 2020 with 2 residential uses. One thing our team really did was focus on the feedback that the seller then, owner now, got from Plan Commission. And as you see as we walk through the presentation tonight, we've addressed most of those previous concerns coming out of that meeting in the fall of 2020. Before we get too far here this evening, as a refresher, the 2013 comp plan in East Gateway sub-area identified multifamily residential as the primary land use for this area, as well as regional commercial. It's kind of shown there in the circle call out on the right side of the map. The development we are proposing includes 164 homes, 102 which will be rear-loading townhomes, and 62 paired townhomes. The 102 rear-loading townhomes minimize garage facings with a rear-loading garage and create an attractive streetscape along the most focal points of the community, all along the length of King Edward, as well as from Foxfield Drive to the north. All homes will feature a 2-car garage with 2-car driveway parking. The north-south street maintains the identified access points at Foxfield and King Edward as per the consent decree, and the plan maintains over 10 acres, roughly 30% of all the space, to open space, wetlands, and detention. You can kind of see it's hard to see in the small one, but there's also extra green pockets that kind of will skirt along King Edward Avenue there to kind of create what is, we think, a really nice streetscape, and will kind of really bring life to that area as a whole. The plan lives to all RM2 setbacks and street widths, includes sidewalks to increase pedestrian connectivity throughout the area, and includes a walkway or future stub to the Charlestown Mall area to the south. Obviously, that's in flux right now, but we certainly would like to include that for future walkability when that does eventually get redeveloped. Elevations of the proposed project are shown on the screen in front of you and behind you. The walk-up row homes range in size from 16 to 1,800 square feet and offer up to 3 bedrooms and 3 baths. Homes generally appeal to young families, kids soon or kids under the age of 5, single professionals, dual income households without kids, single parents, and those simply seeking home ownership in the St. Charles School District, but with a more manageable home size. The paired townhomes offer a little bit different living style than the walk-up row homes. The paired townhomes provide front-loading 2-car garages, full basements, and up to 4 bedrooms and 1,800 square feet. While these homes generally appeal to similar demographics and buyer groups, there is certainly a skew to a downsizer in the paired townhomes. That skew is likely to be emphasized on Charlestown Lakes, given many of these homes will back to open space or green space. Just kind of a quick summary here. Charleston Lake, as presented, lives up to the stated objectives of the 2013 comp plan for the property, consent decree, as well as the East Gateway sub-area. It achieves a complete revitalization of the area, improves connectivity and circulation, and enhances the character of the area. The development achieves advances, the city's planning objectives, right? It's a distinctive site plan, maximizes the streetscape throughout, preserves open space. It's compliant with the consent decree. It offers multiple housing types, attracting a variety of buyer groups. It promotes inter-neighborhood connectivity, walkability. And really, at the end of the day, it helps develop a site with somewhat obsolete zoning for that area, being commercial/business. That kind of concludes my brief overview. We're here to listen to your comments and answer any questions you guys may have.
Thank you. We'll now open up for discussion, questions.
Yep.
Go ahead, Mr. Bessner.
How you doing? Good evening. Could you go back to page 6 and kind of talk about that layout? I'm trying to put the numbers together. It looks like you're looking at a total of 164 homes, and I was just trying to do the quick math on all those units. I know it's a little tight and hard to see, but...
Yeah, you're right. 164 units across roughly 30 acres.
Okay, but like these longer, are those the row homes? I'm just trying to differentiate between what's townhomes, what's row homes.
Correct. There to the east and the north, northeast is all the walk-up row homes.
Okay.
The backside would be your paired townhomes.
And then what kind of pricing are you looking at?
These generally will be all in once priced at options into the 300s.
Okay, and then is there an HOA?
There will be an HOA.
Okay. That's it for now. Thank you.
I'm sorry, could you repeat? I didn't catch how much you said, what the pricing range was going to be.
They'll be in the low 300s.
Low 300s, okay.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Mrs. Paylater.
A quick question for staff. Ellen, oh, there you are. Amongst all the black shirts, you kind of camouflaged in there. The report said, and the gentleman said it complies with the consent decree. So my question is, was the consent decree saying it had to have that office piece?
Sure, I can answer questions on the consent decree. So the consent decree, it's a court-ordered settlement between the city and property owner, and so that agreement specified the land uses that exist today in terms of the zoning districts and the subdivision layout that exists today.
Okay, so it didn't say it had to be, because that's what, the neighbors always thought. One half was going to be multifamily and the other third or whatever was going to be office, and that's not the case necessarily.
So that is what the existing agreement says. The land use is split between commercial and residential. So what's being proposed here would be an all residential land use. So that consent decree agreement would need to be modified.
Oh, it will be. Okay,
way.
That was my question.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and that would be through a negotiation between the city and the property owner.
Okay.
That's a discussion that will need to take place with the city attorney and the property owner's attorney. So that process would likely be initiated following this concept plan review.
Okay, thank you. Because that's a question I'll get, so I just wanted to make sure that was so. Thank you. And the other question I have for you, sir, is I've since taken off my Housing Commission hat and passed it off to Mr. Lencioni, but I still have a question. Did you ever consider putting in any units or no?
Putting in
any affordable units? You're just doing the fee in lieu?
Yeah, the question came up at Plan Commission as well. Certainly we would do it. The calculation gets very cumbersome, and it's from just a complexity standpoint, it's easier from a corporate standpoint to pay that fee in lieu. Honestly, the row homes, the walk-up row homes, it's possible you could make it work. D.R. Horton would certainly need some kind of clarity beforehand that there's a set point that those would qualify for, so we don't end up with a...
Because we so rarely get any projects in here where that's even feasible, and this seemed to be one that maybe that was feasible.
Yeah, we looked at it. It's something we ran the numbers on. The calculations get complex, and there's kind of some uncertainty in where it would shake out. So, D.R. Horton likes certainty in land deals. Certainly paying the fee in lieu gets us to the certainty.
Okay, thank you. And a lot of green space, absolutely. Is the Park District interested in any of it and turning it into a playground? That's a lot of space where there isn't any play area per se.
Yeah, we have not had the conversation with the Park District yet, but there is a larger park to the north there, I believe, community to the north. And generally this size of development is not wholly open to a large parking area. You know, generally this buyer group, you know, the green space, walkability tends to be more of the desired feature.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
That's all.
Patrick, I know that at the Planning Commission, there was a lot of discussion based on connectivity to neighborhoods as well as the Charleston Mall property. Is that something that you guys are interested in doing, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we have the walking path stub to the south, and we think that's appropriate. In terms of a vehicular access to the south, you know, something we don't think really fits with the overall concept plan here, creating another point of access. Planning Commission is also kind of interested in an access here to the far north, to the Petkis property via right of way. Again, you know, certainly not pedestrian. Or,
yeah,
oh,
you're fine. You can keep going.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So absolutely. So pedestrian. You know, we didn't change the concept plan tonight to show up, but certainly we're open to, you know, some of the comments are looping a walking path around one of the detention ponds. So it's all stuff we will explore coming out of this meeting tonight to address some of the comments that they had. The gentleman was Peter Bargulish, gave us a pretty detailed write-up of what he that he has stuff we're considering. So.
Does anybody on the committee have any objections to the use of the land as far as in regards to that? No? Okay. I mean, conceptually, I think it's a good thing. I mean, I'm always a fan of having, you know, getting this property developed, and it seems like you guys are obviously wanting to do something with it. Now, there's a project that is just north of there that started construction and has since moved very, very slow. Where are you guys at? I know that the project you were talking about by Woodfield is progressing and move along nicely. Yep. As far as materials and costs, and is everything based on current pricing, or like where are you at with that? I know. Yeah,
it's crazy about the world now. I mean, costs every day. Jeff can vouch for this. We out there procurement guys, right? Every day it's just, you know, lumber's higher, everything's higher. But certainly we are accounting for that. That's part of our job, is to make sure our financial models work. And just, I know the development you're talking about to the north, it's a smaller, you know, custom guy. It's a little bit different business model, but just a frame of reference, right? I mean, D.R. Horton and basically anybody right now in the world of real estate is having a banner year. I mean, there was past couple of months, I mean, D.R. Horton in Chicago is selling over 100 homes a month across our community. So it's, you know, we think we've moved through this fairly quickly given the city of St. Charles, the school district, and it's just the great location this will provide future buyers. So.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. No other questions? Go ahead, Ryan.
So in the past, when this property's been discussed, the questions that have come up have been largely around potential impact on traffic. You know, when you're talking about, you know, 164 homes, 2-car garages, parking. Can you guys talk a little bit more about what you guys think the anticipated flow will be? I mean, if we have also another development there, just, you know, that butts up there to Foxfield, and just a little more information on what we can expect for traffic.
Yeah, we have engaged a traffic study. Is in process right now. We don't have the results yet. It's taking a little longer given some of the hypothetical run-throughs that have to happen here, but, you know, we will certainly have a full, complete traffic study which will kind of detail the impacts that this development would have on this area and then kind of the surrounding streets. Hopefully that's, you know, a couple weeks out.
Thanks. Okay. See no more questions? Go ahead, Ron.
I appreciate putting sidewalks on both sides of the street.
Oh, yeah.
It's something that I've been a previous member for, same thing. I very much encourage sidewalks, walkability.
We concur. It's a great buyer feature in this area, right? You know, there's some nice walkability to, you know, again, Charlestown Mall. There's, you know, obviously you can't get to the north side right now from a vehicular standpoint, but certainly there's benefits there to, you know, once this area gets redeveloped, to be a great walkable area over there. So.
Okay.
Chairman Weber, we do have someone online who has a few questions.
Okay, can they, give us their name and address?
Hi
The
there,
person
my
that's
name is
online
William.
waiting for, okay,
Hello, can you hear me?
yes.
Name is William Papp. My address is 3702 Queen Elizabeth Court, St. Charles.
You can go ahead, William.
And my first question is there a reason for the connection of Charter One Avenue with King Edward? Can the development go ahead without that?
Did you comprehend that? I couldn't. Can you repeat that a little bit louder, please?
I'll try. Can the development go ahead without the extension of Charter Avenue into King Edward Drive? Is there any reason for that?
For the record, I'm Vince Rosanova. My address is 127 Aurora Avenue at Naperville. That north-south roadway and the corresponding 80-foot width right-of-way is pursuant to the consent decree. That's something that's very, very important to the city.
Why is that, please?
I would defer that to the village engineer.
Is there anyone there who can answer that question?
Yes, I can provide a response. The city, as a part of the negotiation with the property owner, wanted to preserve that right-of-way to provide a street connection to complete the collector street network that serves the residential neighborhoods to the north, recognizing that currently the only exit on a collector street is to the west along Foxfield. This will provide an alternate route to reach Smith Road, where it would be direct and you wouldn't need to cut through the Cornerstone Lakes subdivision in West Chicago, which was not designed for that type of traffic.
I would object to that on the basis of traffic going north on King Edward to try to get to Kirk Road northbound. But that's probably a different subject. Second question, if I may. How many children do you anticipate adding to St. Charles schools as a result of this?
There's a question, how many students will add to St. Charles schools?
Yes.
I think the calc is in that packet. Ellen?
Yeah.
Hold on 1 second, sir. According to the St. Charles school land cash worksheet, this development would add roughly 35 elementary students, 9 middle school students, and 9 high school students. Obviously, I rounded up or down to make them whole numbers, so that is your total number of students generated.
And would there be any compensation to the school district for the addition of those students?
Absolutely. The village has a land cash ordinance that requires either the dedication of land or the cash equivalent. Just running these estimates, the one-time land cash payment would be around $460,000, and that is in addition to the annual real estate tax revenue that the school district would receive from this development, which we all know is the lion's share of your annual tax bill. 164 homes, roughly 50 students. You could immediately detect that these home types don't typically generate a lot of students. Maybe 1 student per 3 homes, just doing the rough math, which is then always a revenue positive thing for the school district, as opposed to your traditional single-family detached homes, which is more appealing to families with children.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
My final
Thank you for the-
question then is, we're showing a path, a walking path to the Charlestown Mall. What's that supposed to
Right.
connect to? Nothing there.
So the path that you see along the south property line, what we're doing at this point is we're reserving an outlot. So if that future use in there is compatible with this development, then the land is reserved and we could always connect, which is a lot easier than not creating that outlot. If the use that ultimately locates there is not synergistic, then it'll just be an outlot with no path. So it's, at this point, it's a good planning measure, but let's wait and see.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no more questions, I don't believe we have any action on this, other than, you know, the discussion that we had, so.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, can I, you know what, and I kind of threw a bunch of questions at you. What I didn't say is that I think it's a great plan.
Thank you.
I appreciate all the little tweaks you did, you know, talking to the Plan Commission and following all our suggestions and whatnot. So thank you.
Thank you, Pat.
All right, thank you, guys. Have a good night.
All right, moving right along, we have a presentation by Rachel in regards to the concept plan for Casey's Fuel Station.
Good evening. A concept plan application has been submitted by Eric Nickel of Casey's Retail Company. They are interested in developing the currently vacant bake site at 2600 East Main Street, which is located within the Foxfield Commerce Center PUD. The applicant is seeking feedback on a concept plan to redevelop the site with a new gas station and convenience store. And Eric Tracy is here tonight to present the plan to the committee.
Good evening. I'm Eric Tracy with Kimley Horn Associates. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of Illinois. I'm here on behalf of Casey's to represent the development. And as Rachel stated, we're looking for some feedback on the use, make sure that generally it's acceptable and something that could be supported at this location. So I'll go through presentation, and then I don't believe I said my address, 4201 Winfield Road, Warrenville, Illinois, 60555. Bear with me while I scroll here to the plan. This is just an existing aerial for those of you not familiar with the location. It's the northeast corner of Fieldgate and Main Street. Currently, it's a vacant bank. I believe the bank has been vacant there for several years. What you see now on the screen is the proposed plan for the Casey's convenience store and fuel station. This station is offering 16 fuel positions in a single line canopy here at the front. Access point connections, we're proposing 2 to Fieldgate, 1 here on the south, 1 up here to the north. Also 2 cross-access connections to the adjacent development, and a right-in only is proposed off of Main Street, subject to IDOT approval. A traffic study has been submitted to IDOT, so we've started that process with the department. What you can see here too, and I have another plan that should highlight it better. I'm going to skip down to the end. Or actually, Rachel, did you get that color exhibit today? Okay, that's fine. So one thing I want to highlight in the plan is the amount of open space and green space this plan contemplates. Essentially this entire area north of the building, east of this drive, and you know, here, over here that curves around the building. This is all intended to be green space. There's green space here along the west and the south end of the canopy as well. For a commercial development, certainly the ones that I typically work on, this has a significant percentage of green space compared to what you typically see with new development today. I will note that the two cuts to Fieldgate are really important for operations. You can see the symbol here on the west side of the site. That's the underground storage tanks where the fuel is kept. So it's important for the truck to be able to get in and out through these two access points. It'd be very difficult for the fuel truck to have to navigate through the site and pull a U-turn movement to fill and get out of the site. What you see here is a prototypical elevation. This is the standard Casey's facility that they're building generally in the Midwestern states. And for some color, I'll go to the sign packet here, which shows the kind of the color scheme of the Casey's and what would be proposed for this facility. Here's a look at what the canopy would look like in this location. And the monument sign with the fuel prices.
Those aren't current fuel prices.
I have no control over fuel prices or what shows up on the signage there. I wish I did have a little bit more control over that. With that, we're just looking for some feedback on the development, on the use, if it's something that could be supported in this location. I appreciate your time.
Is there going to be, I see there's two tanks. Can you tell me, is there going to be diesel there?
I believe that there would be diesel offering for auto, similar to you see at most fuel stations, but certainly not intended to service large vehicles. You think of Volkswagen, type of car, something that would take that. But large vehicles cannot navigate the site. This is a standard retail configuration with those two types.
Has pizza and movies in there too?
Pizza, I should have let off with that. They are actually, Casey's is up to number 5 in the country as a pizza chain. Certainly that would be a big part of the sales here.
Questions? Go ahead.
Yes.
Rita.
Hi. Looking at the plan, it seems fine for where it is. That's fine. But here's my concern. In the last 6 months, auto manufacturers have made very public their e-car projections. And there's all kinds of speculation in Forbes and other magazines that are saying, predicting your typical gas stations will become, maybe not obsolete, but certainly the need for them will be greatly diminished. Not being a pessimist, I'm just trying to be a realist. What happens then? Now all of a sudden we're going to have all this lines of new gas stations. What happens when the tide turns? Is there a plan for repurposing this property? What will that take? Should that be, that's my concern. I know that I had talked to my cousin, and she's an architect in the city, and what they say they hold them is it's too late for us to do that, but just because of concerns out there, the cities are having new gas stations or whatever, getting bonds so that abatement is guaranteed, so that repurposing the property. So all that says to me, I'm not suggesting that for St. Charles, but it says that it's out there that, that there's conversation on gas stations, having maybe, I don't know, a shelf life of till 2030 or 2025, according to the auto manufacturers. So I'm just wondering, if you know of it, your corporate projections for that, just leaving it alone and becoming, Mr. Chairman's go-to pizza place, or, are we going to do something with the gas station part?
Any percentages based on, let's say, 5% of the consumers go to electric vehicles, or whatever the number is? I mean, what are you guys thinking internally as far as that kind of stuff goes?
Sure. So that's certainly a question that I'll raise with Casey's and see what how they would respond to that. As the engineer, I'm not sure. I know that they're interested in this location because they feel it's a viable location for them to, have a good business model. As far as, it's a really good question. I just don't have a good answer for you. They, convenience store is a big part of what they do. The pizza is a big part of what they do in addition to the fuel. But that's a good question when we come in. Hopefully for a formal application, I'll make sure we have a good answer.
Okay, good. Thank you. Appreciate that. Because it's our job. Your job is to make your money, and our job is to look to the future.
Sure.
And so that's just what we're trying to do. Thank you.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Can you talk a little bit more about the appeal of this particular location? I mean, you're talking about demoing a bank. That's not cheap. It's not as if this is the only gas station. In fact, you have 4 developments that are fairly sizable. So I'm curious, what's the appeal for Casey's to make this type of investment, to my colleague's point, in an industry that 10 years from now could be changing dramatically? 20 years from now, we might be pulling, tanks out of the ground because we don't need them anymore. So what's the appeal? I mean, you're not right on, you're not on Randall, you're not up by 59. Why this location? What's the appeal?
Sure. You are on Main Street, and there's a significant traffic on the westbound movement on Main Street. Casey's is a convenience store. It's all about convenience, getting in and out. So getting off the Main Street and going back out onto Main Street. A lot of what they look for in these sites are traffic projections, and they analyze other locations that offer fuel, even though it might seem that, there's a gas station, right down the street. To them, there's enough of a market there for them to be able to capture and provide that service to customers. And in addition to that, again, the pizza is a very big part of their business. This is a location that they feel will get a lot of traffic.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Brian.
Where's the nearest location of a Casey's in the area?
In the area, I am not entirely sure what is closest to that.
There's definitely one in Maple Park.
Maple Park is the only one.
Yeah, I think is it Maple Park? And the next question, the pizza, you talk about the pizza. Do they make it on site? They do make it on site, okay.
Go ahead, Paul.
First of all, I haven't had dinner yet, so let's just keep the pizza talk down. I'm getting very hungry. This is for you and for staff. I'd like to make sure that I understand how the current zoning for this property works and what's being asked. Because as I understand, there's some variance required. I read that, but I don't exactly understand. It didn't come through to me what the departures are.
So this property is located within a PUD that does not allow gas stations, but the underlying zoning does allow for gas stations. So the special use would be to allow the gas station use in the PUD, and it is allowed in the underlying zoning. Now they are going to be requesting a variance, I believe, from the current PUD. There's a setback requirement for the canopy. Needs to be the same setback for the building, which is, in this PUD, I want to say like 100 feet, which is abnormal in town. That's usually we're seeing like 20 to 30 feet. So the variance as part of the special use would really more conform to the underlying zoning as opposed to the PUD that it's currently in. And subsequently, we would probably just create a new PUD for this property to stand alone outside of the one it's currently in. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, I think I get it, for sure. For the applicant, I'm just curious. We have for needing a departure from the PUD that's in place to put tanks in the ground. I'm definitely looking to understand, what makes this spot, because I think Casey's is great, and I love that you're interested in St. Charles. That's awesome. But I know that we have a lot of gas station construction going on right around here. So I really need to understand, why is this location? I'd love to have you in St. Charles, but why this location when there's a lot of gas station construction happening in this zone at the same time? Because I'm looking for the rationale why we should change to put more tanks in the ground when the economic impact and the ability to develop and have flexible development in that area. Although wherever you come in town, if you do, I'd love to see you to be super successful, be there forever. But I'm still trying to understand this location where it needs a departure.
Yeah, I think Rachel hit on the departure. It's really abnormal. It was from a PUD that was done in a very different environment of development. You know, a 100-foot setback, you know, here, that also doesn't conform well to any fuel station development with the canopy. It's treated as a structure, but you know, every fuel station needs a canopy adjacent to the road, good visibility, good circulation around it. So the departure, I think, is more of a result of the way that this was envisioned. When was the PUD put into place originally? Was it the 70s? Mm-hmm. In the 70s, so you know it's a very different development environment today than it was 50 years ago. So you know that's the best response I have to you is to you know the departure request, and then it does come down to the traffic on Main and wanting to be in this location, thinking that it's an underserved area that can you know benefit both Casey's and St. Charles with the motor fuel tax. So the real estate representative on Casey's, I'll make sure to follow up with him and get some of those questions answered on a formal application. As the you know engineering consultant, I don't have all of the information on the business.
Completely makes sense on the just business development side. That's something because we have a lot of gas development happening at exactly the same time. Sure. So I'm very curious to hear that rationale why, because I'd like to see everybody to be successful. I love, you know, good competition and all that, but I definitely have concerns when you need a departure from the zoning to put tanks in the ground. So I want to make that argument.
Okay. Go ahead, Ron. Why don't you go ahead?
Go ahead, Ron. You can.
There are a lot of staff comments in here. I don't know if you've looked at those. Have you addressed any of them in this plan? Landscaping, or just a general plan, here's what we want, and then here's what we want, and then they go back and forth, right? So you haven't actually incorporated any of the staff's comments into the plan yet, correct?
No, and at this point in time, that's the benefit of the concept plan application, to get that feedback, understand the plan commission and from you all what your position is on the plan as presented, so that we can take that to the formal application and take that feedback back to the drawing board, so to speak.
And I guess going back to what Rita's comments were about electric vehicles, I was in the automotive industry for 43 years. It is taken off, but it's going to take 20 or 30 years, even before we get half of the population drive electric cars. But it will happen, but I think that for right now, I mean, it's a valid point, but I don't know if 20, 30 years, that's probably the average life of a gas station energy before you got to replace the tanks and stuff. And to Paul's comments about doing so many gas stations, I agree, but I think that's more for the free market to decide than us. I mean, if the company's willing to spend the money, I would presume they would do their due diligence before they decided to build a gas station, because I think we're going to have potentially 3 of them in a half-a-mile stretch. So I presume everybody's going to do their due diligence and see if it works or not. Okay.
I would agree.
Yep. Dan.
Go ahead, Mr. Stellato.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I would feel more comfortable, just as a comment, if IDOT would allow a signal at Fieldgate in Main Street. I know that the distance between that light and the light into the shopping center might not fit within their criteria, but your main exit point for any vehicle leaving is going to be Fieldgate, and people making a left turn movement, it's difficult today. Adding the additional cars onto it, I'd feel much more comfortable if there was a signal there. So I'll just throw that out there as a comment. Where it goes from there in your traffic study, just want to make sure they study that intersection. That's all I had.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you, Dan. Go ahead, Rita.
Yeah, just quick, I was kind of flippant with my pizza question. I forgot that I actually did have a question. So this is just takeout, right? It's not a restaurant per se, or is it?
It's grab and go.
It's a grab and go. Okay, thank you.
You know, I can confirm that with cases. Well, there might be some limited seating, but it's certainly not. It's a 4,000 square foot building. Mm-hmm. There's not significant area there.
Right. That's what I say. It wasn't in the plan, so I just was wondering. Okay. Thank you.
Go ahead, Brian.
Does Casey sell wine and liquor, or is it just soda or?
If they could, they'd like the flexibility to sell wine and liquor if it's allowed by the city.
Okay.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions, I don't think we need to.
We do have a question online again.
Okay. The person online, go ahead and announce your name and address, please.
Hi, this is William Papp again, 3702 Queen Elizabeth Court, St. Charles. One basic question, how much truck traffic, tankers or otherwise, would you anticipate going north onto Foxfield Drive?
Is that specific to trucks?
Yes, correct.
This is a retail fuel station intended to serve cars, passenger cars. It is not intended to serve trucks.
I'm referring to your delivery trucks more specifically.
Oh, sure. I would anticipate that the delivery trucks would mostly use Main Street and, enter and exit off of Main. I do know that the deliveries and the fuel deliveries do not happen frequently. So even if they were to go north on Field Gates, the movements would be pretty insignificant.
Thank you.
Thank you, William. All right. Well, thank you very much.
I have to ask this last question. I've heard some concerns, but generally, as we're making the decision, Casey's making the decision to move forward with the formal application, engineering, is the use in this location something that the city supports? Is there any feedback you can give? Maybe a little more pointed.
The bank's been there. It's been empty for a long time. Obviously, other prospective developers could have, proposed and done things with that space. Historically, I don't know how many people have made presentations to do some with it, but I do know that the people that put the bank in, they did not know that there was going to be ATM machines when they put that in. So from a business perspective, they put it in there, not knowing what the future would hold. You guys are obviously willing to make a large investment in the community, not knowing what the future holds. I mean, so as far as I'm concerned, I think that conceptually, it looks good. I like a lot of the green space. Right now, it's just an abandoned bank building. I don't know that anyone's actually necessarily opposed to the project being there.
Well,
go ahead, Rita.
I just want to chime in as alderman in that area. I have been approached for different developers on different ideas for that property. So, yes, an abandoned bank. Yep. No. They just were tossing it out there, seeing, if there would be any kind of so there has been some,
but nothing formal.
Interest. No, nothing formal.
Go ahead.
So I guess as far as the use goes, I'm going to go back to Alderman Spilato's suggestion on the signalization of that. So the problem I have with the site doesn't seem real to me for a case. It looks like it's stuck in the middle of a block. It's not where they normally go. It's not where the Casey's concept that I've, come to know and like, this isn't a normal fit for them in my opinion. And absent some ability to make, a left in there, to me, I really don't understand it. I agree, it's your business model, and Ron's right, it's free market, you guys make your call, but to me it doesn't feel right, and then I really question whether even putting a signal in there feels right. So I find myself questioning their decision to use this site, just so you know.
Good feedback.
I would echo that as well, because I take a look at a property like this, and if it doesn't work and we put the tanks in a place where you're asking, like it's not permitted, I'd like to see those answers, because I have some concerns, but I love that Casey's wants to be in St. Charles. I'd love to have Casey's here. I would just like to understand the site better, because I really want to make sure that you guys have it all thought out with as much development there and having another gas station with more tanks on the ground. And if it doesn't work right, I'd hate to see it abandoned because it doesn't because you lose flexibility on the site, even though I'd love to see you in town.
Yeah, it's the footprint for me. It's, the location being a bit odd, but also we're not talking, I mean, we're talking 16 pumps, you know, signed. It's a big footprint, you know, and I get that the bank is empty, but I'm not sure that putting that footprint in that place as it currently stands is solving the problem. It seems like there would be other options potentially, you know, across town that might be a better fit. I'm a big fan of Casey's, stop there quite often when I'm on the road, but in that particular location with that type of, you know, investment and development that would be needed, seems like it'd be more work.
Trying to think how to advise on this. Should we get a consensus on whether to give them any feedback or what? I mean, it seems like we're kind of split up here.
Is there any, I was gonna ask,
go ahead.
Is there any other location potentially that's even been viewed, looked at, you know, within the city? Like on either one of the gates?
Not to my knowledge. This is the only active project in St. Charles.
From a use question, I mean, what we've done in the past is just a straw poll. So go Alderman, what do you think of the use? Yes, no.
Okay. Well,
it's not a vote, but it's an indication, and you can count. So.
Okay.
I'm okay.
Say it again?
I'm okay with the use.
You're okay with the use? Right.
I would like to take a look at one of your locations before I answer.
Are you okay with the use?
Are you asking me or?
Give me a yes or no if you're okay with the use.
No. Oh, they'll say that.
Oh, you know, I'd have to get back to you on that, yeah.
Now's the time, buddy.
Yeah. You know, I would like to take a look at a location. I've never been to a Casey's, so, I think the use is fine. I do agree with Alderman, Bongard on the footprint. It seems rather large for that space. You know, but, I would like to take a look at a location though as well, so.
Go ahead, David.
You know, we're taking a poll. I'll say no. I just have too many question marks.
Not made up, but I'm apprehensive. Love the company, love to see you in town. The changes in there, I'm apprehensive, but not mine made up.
I'll say yes, I'm okay with the use. Go ahead.
Love Casey's, I think it's a bad site.
Okay.
I'm sorry, you think it's a
Bad site.
bad site?
Ryan?
No.
No? Okay. Rita?
Yeah, and I have concerns about putting tanks in the ground.
So is that a yes or no?
Yeah, so that's a no for now, yeah.
Straw
Till I hear a
Straw
response.
poll, okay.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the best use of our property, I agree. There are too many unanswered questions about all the staff comments.
Okay.
Things that I would like, I guess I'd like a plan that incorporates the staff comments and our comments before we proceed, give them any approval.
Okay, that's fine. Mr. Stellato?
Right now, I don't think the site works.
Okay. All right. Well, as of right now, the staff, we don't feel like the site works.
Yeah, sure.
So, I mean, it's up to them to pursue, obviously, continue pursuing, but that's where we're at right now.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All righty, moving right along. Part C, we're going to discuss the municipal code pertaining to the micro brewery. You are ready? I am ready.
Good evening. So back at the April P&D committee meeting, a discussion was held regarding zoning regulations for microbreweries. The committee directed staff to file a general amendment to the zoning ordinance to create a use category for microbreweries and to establish standards related to the use. The proposed amendment is meant to clarify zoning regulations for microbreweries and businesses with accessory microbreweries. It will also allow for existing microbreweries in industrial districts to expand their operations and will offer more flexibility in the use of their space. So part of the impetus for this amendment was an interest among existing microbreweries to incorporate permanent outdoor dining and also outdoor entertainment. Outdoor dining at the two breweries in industrial districts is currently permitted only on a temporary basis as part of the city's temporary outdoor dining program, which expires at the end of the year. So over the past few years, obviously, we've seen an influx of microbreweries in town. In industrial districts, we have Riverlands Brewing Company and D&G Brewing. And then in the commercial districts, we have Alter, Pollyanna, 93 Octane, and also Broken Bricks, which manufactures wine and cider. So currently, the zoning ordinance does not list microbrewery as a use category. So existing businesses have been classified as under related uses in order to allow them to establish. In industrial districts, they have been classified as light manufacturing uses. And then the taproom portion of the business has been limited to no more than 50% of the floor area, so that it could be classified as an accessory use to the brewery portion. And then the commercial districts, they have been permitted as, microbreweries have been permitted to function as an accessory use to a restaurant or a bar. So proposed is to create a use category for microbreweries, and the definition is here on your screen. It limits production to 15,000 barrels per year, which is based on the Brewers Association definition of microbrewery as opposed to a larger regional brewery. These establishments can include a tap room open to the public, where beer produced on-site can be purchased for on- or off-site consumption, and live entertainment would be allowed inside the building. Outdoor dining and outdoor entertainment would be allowed as accessory uses, subject to some use standards, which I will mention in a minute. And then also we've included manufacture of wine and spirits in the definition to allow small-scale wineries or distilleries to establish as well, or to allow these types of activities within the breweries. So proposed is to allow the use as a permitted principal use in the M1 special manufacturing and M2 limited manufacturing districts. Currently, the map showing the current locations. Currently, Riverlands is located in M1, as well as D&G Brewing in M1. So within these districts, a microbrewery could establish in any location, assuming there's adequate parking. They would have the potential to expand their tap rooms because the limitation of 50% floor area for the tap room would be removed. Let's see. And then for commercial districts, microbreweries would be allowed as accessory to restaurants, bars, and retail sales locations. So included commercial districts are the BL local business, BC community business, BR regional business, as well as the downtown central business district. So allowing the microbrewery use as an accessory use to these types of businesses is in keeping with the current interpretation that has allowed these businesses to establish, especially downtown. For example, Alter Brewing and Kitchen is classified as a restaurant with an accessory microbrewery. 93 Octane and Pollyanna are classified as taverns, bars, with accessory brewing, and then Broken Bricks is within the home brew shop, which is retail sales. So the proposed parking requirements would be 1 space per 1,000 square feet of gross floor area for the brewery portion. This is in line with light manufacturing uses. And then for the taproom portion, 10 spaces per 1,000 square feet would be required, and this is the same requirement as for bars and restaurants. Now, in terms of related uses, proposed is to allow outdoor dining as an accessory use to taverns, bars, and microbreweries. Obviously, outdoor dining it's only currently allowed in association with restaurants, but it does exist in association with taverns and bars. This change would allow the existing microbreweries in the M1 district to incorporate permanent outdoor dining. And existing provisions for outdoor dining would remain, including that the area cannot be located within a required yard abutting a residential district. The sound level of music or any other sound cannot exceed 60 decibels at the property line, and then no music or other sound shall occur after 10 p.m. Also proposed is to allow outdoor entertainment as an accessory use, and with the caveat that for microbreweries adjacent to residential zoning, proposes to prohibit amplified sounds after 8 p.m. So of the two microbreweries, Riverlands is not adjacent to residential zoning, so they could have outdoor music until 10 p.m. And then D&G Brewing, which is adjacent to residential zoning, would be subject to the 8 p.m. limitation. And then the final change is really a cleanup of existing provisions, just to clarify that taverns, bars, outdoor dining and outdoor entertainment are allowed as accessory uses to restaurants, bars, and breweries. Also to amend the definition of live entertainment to clarify that it's permitted inside microbreweries. And then finally to amend the standards for food trucks to clarify that they're permitted in association with microbreweries. Plan Commission held a public hearing on June 8th, and the primary topic of conversation was the proposed 8 p.m. Restriction on amplified music. This would, like I said, apply to D&G Brewing. At the public hearing, D&G Brewing did express support for the proposal. Letters were received from neighbors of the business expressing opposition to outdoor music. Existing provisions for food trucks were also discussed as a related item, and it was expressed that the current language limiting food truck operations to 2 days per week needed clarification. So the Plan Commission did recommend approval by a vote of 8-0 with a condition that the food truck language be amended to clarify that operation of each food truck shall be limited to 2 days in a 7-day period, and this would allow businesses to offer food trucks more than 2 days a week, but would prohibit a single truck from parking for more than 2 days straight. Are there any questions on the proposal?
Yes, I know we do have some questions. Go ahead, Rita.
Yeah, Ellen, I listened in on that meeting, and I was real disappointed that there was no, you put together an alternative option, which I think is great. And I wanted you to explain that in a minute, because when back in the day, what was it, ancient years, 3, 4, how long ago? Well, it hasn't been that long since we, allowed microbreweries. And back then, they were to be in the niche of manufacturing because, in fact, they were manufacturing. That was what it was, and then they were allowed a tap room to taste. Now, all of a sudden, they're turning into an entertainment business. And I have an issue with pushing that on the neighbors, be they other manufacturing businesses or be they residential, that wasn't the intent of the original zoning. So it seems to me that your alternative option would be, because I feel that the neighbors need to have a legal recourse, and they need to, this is a change of zoning, really. This is going from a manufacturing business to an entertainment business, that by adding all those on. Thank you for your work, but that's just what I think. We're just, putting lipstick on a pig, if you will, to quote my grandmother. But anyway, if you could explain the alternative option quickly. Yeah, thank you.
Sure. So one alternative option outlined in the staff report is to require special use approval for any microbrewery looking to establish. So this would require a public hearing for the specific location and business being proposed, a public hearing held by Plan Commission, and ultimately City Council approval of the special use. So basically a special use could be acceptable in a given location if it's established in an appropriate manner and location within the zoning district. Findings of fact would need to be found in the affirmative regarding impact to surrounding property owners and maintaining general welfare and those sorts of findings. So, like I said, there would be a public hearing, so neighbors would be notified of a proposed brewery, and public input would be received before any special use would be voted upon.
Go ahead, Paul.
Okay, I don't remember this, but you're going to have to help me. So how does an accessory use, how does that fit into the established use with an accessory use? What is that?
Yeah, so the definition of accessory use is basically a use that's subordinate in area and functionality of a principal use. So, for example, Alter Brewing, most of the floor area is dedicated to restaurant use. And then they have a small portion of the building where they do some brewing, some limited brewing. So we would call the brewing portion accessory to the restaurant.
So accessory use that is permitted.
That's the proposal, would be to permit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What other? Can you give me? I'm just trying to make sure that I understand. So an accessible. See, look at them. An accessory use is permitted as long as it meets, the guidelines to fit into an accessory to the main business. Am I correct there?
Correct, yeah.
So it's totally permitted, yeah. It's not, there's not...
That would be the proposal. So if a restaurant was coming before the city for a building permit and they have some brewing, we would look at their floor plan to make sure that the brewing is a small portion of their business. We might also ask questions of the proposed business owner of their operations and what their intent is to make sure that it would fit the definition of truly accessory.
Okay. What other, in the zoning code, what other, zoning out there has an accessory use which would pivot kind of like this? Because I'm just trying to wrap my head around what's being proposed.
Yeah, there's, for example, gosh, I think parking lot is an accessory use to businesses. I think there's coffee or tea room use that allows, or retail sales that allows accessory coffee or tea room, which is like a small coffee shop located within a retail business. There are a few examples in the code, and I'm not thinking of all of them.
Now I'm getting it. I was like, this is a pretty unique scenario. Okay, I understand. I have one other question.
Go ahead.
So in looking at this, because this is definitely in commerce, this is like microbreweries are a movement for sure. And you know, what are some of the things in an M1? Like M1 is the most intense manufacturing. Am I correct?
M1 is a special manufacturing district, so it does not allow as many manufacturing uses as M2.
Okay, so M2 would be heavier manufacturing with M1 special manufacturing. Can you give me the types of business that would go in there? Because when I think about this, you've got manufacturing where you wouldn't expect as much retail traffic and things like that, but you've got manufacturing. I'm just trying to kind of gauge the intensity of use.
Yeah, generally light manufacturing uses, light manufacturing warehousing and distribution, minor motor vehicle repair.
Tool and die shop, would that fit into something like that?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes, generally uses that do not attract much foot traffic in general. In M2, heavy retail is permitted, I believe, which is like a home improvement center. I'm speaking off the cuff, so I would need to verify that. Okay. But in general, uses that are allowed in the manufacturing districts are less pedestrian-oriented, less oriented to the general public.
Okay.
Go ahead, Ron.
Is there a request to change the parking requirements in the manufacturing district?
So the proposal is to establish parking requirements for microbreweries. So right now, breweries in the two existing breweries are subject to a 1 parking space per 1,000 square foot limitation, which applies to light manufacturing uses. But we're proposing to require more parking for the tap room portion of the building, 10 spaces per 1,000, which is in line with what we require for bars and restaurants.
Are any of them deficient in that, or?
So that the Riverlands location is kind of a unique situation. The parking within that park is all shared. So I did some rough calculations based on hours of operation of existing businesses, and it appears that there would be adequate parking for Riverlands. For D&G Brewing, based on the uses that are currently within that shared building and their shared parking lot, it does appear that they are currently deficient on parking, and then they would remain so after this amendment.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead, Ron.
To Rita's point, I like the alternative option. I think we should look at each business individually. In my opinion, there are places where there is no residential, and I'm fine with having 10 or 11 o'clock. When the residential, I would like to take that one individually and work on it just for that one business. So I would go with the alternative option and make each one a special use. I think that's the proper way to do it. Instead of making a blanket one for everything, they're not all in the same area. Thank you.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Are there other noise restrictions in this particular area? I mean, where D&G is located, so some of the other businesses, are there other noise restrictions given how close they are to residents? So, I mean, somebody can't be running, machinery at 8:45 at night or 10:30 at night.
Yes, we're not in the zoning ordinance, but elsewhere in the city code, there are, the nuisance ordinance has kind of specific noise guidelines based on what type of noise generating activity, but generally the noise would need to end by 10 or 10:30 p.m. And then there's a caveat that any restriction, sound restriction stricter than that would apply. So if we established a stricter time limit in the zoning ordinance, then that would apply per zoning.
You had mentioned that there was some letters of opposition to this from the residents. Do we have any evidence of that or something that we could?
Those should be attached at the packet, in the packet at the end.
Okay.
We may have some neighbors here tonight as well.
Is there anybody here that would like to publicly speak about this? Go ahead, you can come up. State your name and your address.
My name is Mick Nockey. I live at 222 North Fifth Street. We're adjacent to D&G Brewing. So I guess our biggest issue is the amplified music. When they had it in COVID out in the parking lot, it was a full band. And, I mean, we couldn't be in our yard. Literally, the way in was practically in our yard. It's right on the other side of our fence. We had several times where we had people over in the backyard and we had to move inside because we couldn't hear each other talk. And even while we're inside, like trying to watch TV or listen to music, we couldn't because that music was drowning out the music we were listening to. And again, I invite anybody to stop by while they're doing that, and you can sit in my living room, and you can understand what we go through. And I know we're all neighbors here. We all have the same issue, and I know there were 3 other people who wanted to come, but they're out of town right now. So we all kind of deal with the same thing. And it's not the time of being cut out at 8 o'clock either. It's every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, having to have that in your house every single week, day in and day out. You know, at the beginning they had the one band. You know, it's like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And then it became a thing. And it's just, again, every single week on a Saturday afternoon, you're trying to sit on your porch, you know, and you can't because of the music. And I know they've moved it inside now, and probably this may be a little nitpicky, but they can have it amplified inside. But with all the doors open, and they got the garage door open, and people are right there in the bay, you know, just even one performer, he's like, hey, can you guys hear me out there? And they're like, yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, jeez.
You know, so it's our battle that we've dealt with for over a year now. And I have no issues with small business, D&G, I have no issues with them. It's the music. And that's basically about it.
Thank you. Did anybody else want to come up and speak?
Is there anybody from DHG?
There's pictures.
Yeah.
Hello, Shirley Fulbright. I live on 300 North Fifth Street. The brewery is there. It's 50 feet, again, from my bedroom window. So I hear everything that's going on, and sometimes they play this corn or shuffleboard thing, you know, with the corn stuff, and I can hear it in my bedroom going clunk, clunk, and sometimes it's 11 o'clock at night, and one night it was 2 in the morning, and then on Easter Saturday, they messed around to 3 o'clock in the morning. I could not enjoy my Easter because I didn't have no sleep. So that's my problem, and I don't know if you guys can handle it. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is the owner of D&G on the phone at all or here? No. Is there any representative from D&G here or on the phone? No. Okay. Can you come back up? So, what you're requesting from us is to approve the ordinance as written.
That's the Plan Commission recommendation, but changes could be made as part of your recommendation.
Okay. I think what we're seeing is that this needs to be, there was a lot of forgiveness given during COVID, and I think that some of the committee members up here don't feel like there's been enough vetting of this and an opportunity for the public to weigh in more, the neighbors to weigh in more to really vet this. So would somebody like to make some form of a recommendation or a motion? Go ahead, Rita.
Mr. Chairman, you stated my concerns exactly, in that we are changing the use of these businesses now. And so I think that to change a use, I think in all fairness, we need to review, well, what was Ellen's wording? I mean, special use versus, what do they have now? Like
I think permitted use is
permitted. Thank you. Permitted use versus special use, and I would like to see. I would like to recommend staff consider that alternative option, and maybe reconsider in having the microbreweries become classified as a special use.
Would you be opposed to separating Riverlands from D&D?
No, I don't think we can do that. I don't think we can do that.
No, one's residential, one's not, okay?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Doug.
So the only issue with making it special uses is that every time it comes before us, every time. And so there's probably a bunch of instances where it doesn't apply. So, I mean, my question to staff would be, is there a way of parsing this out where we say, okay, you know, in pure M1 and M2 industrial districts, it doesn't have to be.
Well, that would be part of the investigation, correct.
It doesn't have to be a special use, and it's not even a request. Whereas if it is 50 feet from some, residential area, maybe that is something that we've got.
Yeah, is that possible? Is that
Yes,
I think that it could be formatted, at least for the accessory microbrewery uses, that could be a permitted accessory use, and then for the M1 and M2 districts, it would be a special use. But I don't think, since it's based on the zoning district, like as a blanket statement, based on the zoning district, I don't know if we can differentiate uses being special versus permitted based on distance from.
I don't think so. I think for consistency, we're better to do it based on manufacturing district, on zoning district, as Ellen suggests. So there's going to be a special use in the manufacturing district versus allowing it to permitted use in the commercial district. That would be a good option. There could be additional use standards established also for properties that are abutting residential districts as elements before. But the amplification could be limited even further.
Or not at all, maybe.
Or not allowed at all.
Yeah.
Could be completely prohibited. That's a new request.
So go ahead, Paul.
I have a question, because you take a look, this is one of the oldest areas in town, and I'm just curious, how often does this, like how many places does this occur where you have manufacturing that integrated with residential?
It's not very prevalent in town. Obviously, this is kind of an older manufacturing area that's kind of a leftover portion of manufacturing in this area, obviously adjacent to residential. There is some M1 zoning on the east side of town, adjacent to residential, but pretty much all of the M2 is not. So it's not very common.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of other areas where we could run into this problem, like where the old Napa was. That's the print shop now, because they actually used to run a distribution out of this tiny little place behind that. There's a couple spots, but I think that's one of the
and that's actually CBD 2, I believe.
Is that CBD 2 now? Because I'm just trying to think. It's just a spot where you have really tight old zoning, where we were a smaller town. So it's hard for me to wrap my head around the right way to do it, and I feel for it.
Go ahead, Todd.
I was just going to suggest maybe this is something that we postpone consideration on.
Yeah, and maybe have.
Given some of the feedback that staff's gotten, they can think about what they've heard from here. So I'd make a motion to postpone the item.
Ryan, did you want to discuss? You want to say something first?
No, I think that I'd like to know, does D&G have plans to expand? Is this something that, I think as Chairman mentioned, things relaxed with COVID, where everybody has to be outdoors, things are getting louder. The initial intent was to have this be, a microbrewery, closed doors as we're doing, but last year's been crazy. But if that's not the case, and there are plans now to turn this into something that it wasn't originally, I think that you need to know that.
Sure. Go ahead, David.
So, just to clarify, because I wasn't in support of the alternative, so from what you're saying, Rita, that you're suggesting that special use is not unless I'm confused.
Yeah,
Special use is not
I
an
believe
option?
the special use is an option,
Oh, okay.
but we couldn't differentiate requiring a special use for M1 if it's adjacent to residential versus not. It would
I
just
see.
be a special use in the M1.
Okay, thanks. I mean, if I could just add, we're sharing our thoughts. I mean, I appreciate, and I'll support, discussing this later. I couldn't support the current language, the residents have spoken, it just can't, I wouldn't support it just because it's too much of a hindrance on them. So I'm glad we're, exploring other options, so.
Yeah, I agree with Alderman Petrilla. It's just it's having a negative impact on the quality of life for the residents that live in that neighborhood, and I think we need to explore different options that will address that as well.
Okay. Well, Mr. Chairman, then, just for the, I'll second.
So we have a motion
Alderman,
on the table to,
it's Alderman Bancroft's suggestion that we,
postpone the discussion.
right. Postpone discussion and direct staff to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Staff, do you have proper recommendations, what we're asking for?
I believe so. If the committee wishes to postpone the discussion, we can do so at another time. I believe our options are limited, however, from
Yeah.
zoning standpoint. The options are we allow it as a permitted use within some equipment district. The second option is we allow it as a special use, which means we would require public hearing and consideration for each application. The other option is limitations on amplification, given for the time limit, 8 p.m., 7 p.m., whatever the committee feels appropriate, or prohibit amplification altogether.
Yeah, that's
Any outside music, prohibit it altogether. But I believe those are pretty much the objective options that are available for the committee. But again, it's your prerogative if you wish to defer the discussion to another time.
I believe I believe the committee wishes to definitely go the route of having each applicant go for a special use. Yes? We're going to make a motion, I'm just saying for staff.
Well, it was just for.
Well, there's a motion on the floor to
Postpone.
Yeah.
Yes, all right, I wanted to give staff proper direction. Are we clear on what?
No, we can talk about the motion. Yeah, that's fine. I agree. I'm just trying to make sure that I understand orders of the day.
Okay, well, so let's have a roll call to postpone the discussion for now.
Philcarger?
Yes.
Leitner?
Yes.
Baumgart?
Yes.
Bancroft?
Yes.
Lencioni?
Yes.
Trilla?
Yes.
Wirball?
Yes.
Fessner?
Yes.
Salato?
Yes.
Can I ask Ellen a real quick, Mr. Chairman, can I ask staff a quick question?
Motion carries. Go ahead, Rita.
Right now, the current situation, how it is with the COVID permissions, when do those expire?
The end of the year.
Okay, so does that mean then that these neighbors still have to endure this noise until the end of the year?
Well, I believe the allowance for outdoor music was removed from the outdoor dining program.
That's what I'm asking, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they can do the outdoor dining part?
Correct.
Okay. And they playing the music with all the doors and windows open. So, yeah, I'm just wondering, are we just...
Pushing this
I think that's an important part, to hear from D&G, because you're on summer, and hearing people's concerns and what the plans are moving forward.
Sure, okay.
I gotta admit, I'm just confused on what to do, because I think that you've got one business in a place that, it's just confusing to know what to do and do something that's one size fits all. So I'm looking for guidance on that for sure. And
that's what we just did, so.
Yeah.
We'll, hopefully this might come up again. For now, everything stays the same.
I have a quick question. They are currently allowed to play indoor amplified music, is that correct?
They are. The definition of live entertainment requires that the entertainment be indoor in a completely enclosed area. So,
What do you mean by completely enclosed?
Meaning no doors and windows open.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
So so the anecdote that was just shared, they were not being compliant, it sounds like.
Yes, but currently live entertainment under the zoning definition is only allowed right now as a accessory use to restaurants. So with the clarification that provision applies to microbreweries, that would come with this amendment.
Right, that would have closed the gap, essentially. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Moving right along, item D, we have the special use PUD for the preliminary plan for the KFP Plan Unit Development. Go ahead.
KFP Family Associates owns 6 contiguous parcels at the northeast corner of East Main Street and Dunham Road. Together with RDK Ventures, the owner of Circle K, an application has been filed for special use for PUD for the 4 parcels at the corner. The parcels currently contain Circle K, the old Corfu restaurant, Taco Bell, and Frankie's Red Hot. Proposed is to replat the property into 3 parcels. The existing Circle K and Corfu restaurant parcels would be consolidated into a single lot for the gas station. Also proposes to improve access to and between the parcels by eliminating 4 of the 6 curb cuts along Main Street and 1 of the 3 curb cuts along Dunham Road. Also to establish internal cross-access along the north and south of the parcels. Also proposed is to redevelop the Circle K and Corfu parcels with a 4,700 square foot convenience store and fuel canopy with 8 pumps. The proposal is similar to a concept plan that was presented to the committee earlier this year. Plan Commission held a public hearing on June 8th. They unanimously recommended approval subject to resolution of staff comments. During the hearing, there were concerns expressed regarding the location and design of the southern cross-access drive between Frankie's and Circle K. Staff has requested a traffic circulation memo be prepared by a traffic engineer to assess the safety of this cross-access and the functionality, if it is the applicant's desire to retain this layout. So if a traffic memo is provided, staff would suggest that it be reviewed by the city's traffic engineering consultant before the committee make a recommendation. But the applicant has indicated that they plan to present an alternative layout tonight. And Mr. Scott Day is here to present the alternative plan.
Okay, very good. Good evening. My name is Scott Day, D-A-Y. I am with the firm of Day and Robert. We're out of Naperville, and we have the privilege of representing KFP, the applicant and owner of these properties. We have our witnesses here if you have any questions regarding the applications or the technical elements. I know that you asked a series of questions on other matters, but we're here on a slightly different status. We do, however, have one question for you. Our team, Circle K and Arc Design, they are the designers and the engineers behind the Circle K site, and our design engineers from Mac Consultants have done the work for the balance of the properties which make up the Taco Bell site, as well as the Frankie's Red Hot site. These witnesses are available for questions if you have them. Anthony Scarlata is the Director of Real Estate for RDK. His design engineer, Ryan Swanson, is here, and our design engineers, Stephen Kaminsky and Rosanna Lee Morales, are both present if you have questions of them. The site you know well. The Circle K facility has been there for decades. I think it's in the neighborhood of 40 to 50 years old. The Corfu site has been vacant for some time. Taco Bell also is a long veteran of this particular corner, and Frankie's Red Hots is a relatively new addition with some modifications that were done with the permission of the city a few years back. At this stage, only the first 4 parcels are ready for redevelopment. We have future plans for the Bosa and the Jersey Mikes, but they are not quite ready at this time. We're seeking the preliminary PUD approval, and we've been recommended for authorization for this by the Plan Commission. And the Circle K site that you see here has been modified repeatedly since the design was originally presented for your consideration. Additional landscaping has been added at the entry off of Dunham. Additional landscape island has been entered in the travel aisle heading north through the Circle K site. We removed some parking spots at your staff's recommendation, and there's been commitments to meet the landscaping requirements for the Circle K site as well. The proposed alternative is subject to prompt IDOT approval, and this is a problem that we have in relationship to the entry and egress from the Frankie's site. What our design plan has been from the inception on this project is to close 5 of the curb cuts off of North Avenue and Dunham. We have no fewer than 10 curb cuts. And North Avenue being a strategic regional arterial, they like to have no more than one curb cut. I think it's every 1,200 feet. We happen to have 7 of them on North Avenue alone. So we went to them with the plan, and we said, you know, what we're going to try to do is close 4 of your curb cuts along North Avenue, and we're going to take 2 full curb cut entries, 1 full curb cut entry for Frankie's and multiple full curb cut entries for the Shell Station facility, and we're going to reduce that to 1 full cut ingress egress, and the Frankie's is going to be reduced to a right-in, right-out only. That presentation, contrary to the normal processing for IDOT, which has taken anywhere from 12 to 14 to 16 weeks for typical application, was approved in less than 4. So they turned this around very, very quickly. They were very excited about what we were proposing at IDOT. Your staff has legitimate concerns about the proximity of this location right at the corner. Let's see, do we have a mouse here? No, we have to go back a parcel. At this location here, you can see that we have both an ingress and an egress from Frankie's. We have to create that so that the patrons of Frankie's can get in and out through the Circle K facility. Otherwise, their sole egress would be at the north end of the site, and it would be a very circuitous and problematic circulation, which frankly our Frankie's tenant has told us they will not accept. So this is the original design, and this is what has been approved by IDOT. It has right in, right out only off of North Avenue, and then it has to share the egress with the Circle K site. Your engineers are concerned, and they'd like to have a traffic analysis of the safety of that location and proximity to vehicles that would be exiting North Avenue and turning into the Circle K site. It's a legitimate concern. We've talked with our engineers. We can accommodate that, and we can provide that engineering report. But we made a pledge to the Plan Commission that we would look at the circulation for Frankie's and see if there were any other alternatives. We looked at moving that location further north on the site. We could not accommodate that because the drive-through pickup window for Frankie's is located too far south, and having it north would create additional problems in conflict with the drive-up window. There's also approximately a 2-foot grade differential at that location were we to move the site further north. So that one wouldn't work. We went to Frankie's and asked whether or not they'd be willing to take only the north egress from their site, and they said no. Under their lease agreement, they're not willing to do that. But then we looked at alternatives, and our engineers came up with this plan. This plan has the benefit of removing the curb cut that was in the first drawing, and it provides a ingress and egress off of North Avenue. Now, this Frankie's will accept, and this is okay with Circle K as well. The one problem that we have is it has not been approved by IDOT. And in order to get this one approved, we would have to go to IDOT and say, remember where we said we were only going to leave 1 full ingress-egress off of North Avenue? Now we're going to have to do 2. And they're going to be in close proximity to each other. So what we are asking of this group, we would actually like to get authorization or recommendation to have this approved with either of these. And if this one is preferred by your engineering staff and your technical people, we will do this as long as we can get it approved by IDOT on a somewhat expedited basis. And conversely, if this is not viable, the only way we can do this is with the first plan. We will submit the engineering study and the traffic engineer's report to confirm the safety of that particular configuration. And in relation to this, let me just say this. This is one of those unusual sites that began developing roughly 70 years ago. The family assembled these parcels of property over time and started in the 1950s when service stations still had service bays. And over the years, they assembled additional parcels as they moved from the west side to the east side at this location. So you have a series of different isolated improvements that were created as commercial sites that meet a different time. And the most recent of them is no less than 40 years old. So that's what we're dealing with to start. Development is difficult, I've said. Redevelopment is really difficult. Trying to get all of these things to fit are a little bit complicated. It drives some of the deviations we need at this particular time. This access point that we are fighting over here, it's not perfect, but we think that it is a safe and the best solution to cross-access, which we think is a legitimate goal. And as our engineer says, the whole goal of the city in removing traffic from Route 64 and putting it to internal circulation is to have the traffic movements moving at 2 and 3 miles per hour within a confined location instead of conflicting with the vehicles that are moving at 35 to 45 miles an hour on the strategic regional arterial along with 29,500 cars on a daily basis. So it's an unusual request, we know that, but this is the one request our clients have. Again, I say we have the RDK people here if you have questions. We have our design engineers for KFP that are present. Amelia Leonardos, who is the president and manager for KFP, is also present, and we welcome any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Questions? Go ahead, Rita.
Yeah. Was this just a plan commission request, or did staff request this too from the original?
Staff requested a traffic analysis be prepared if that southern access drive through here were proposed, which was the previous plan. So that was a staff request to provide that. And the App Plan Commission, this idea came up to have a two-way into Frankie's. So it wasn't necessarily recommended by staff. It may solve some of the internal problems, but also it's not a perfect solution, obviously.
During Planning Commission, there was a lot of concern about the flow, and everything was pending a traffic study, which we still haven't seen yet. But.
Right. I heard the conversation, and so that's why I'm just wondering if it was just, one Plan Commissioner's recommendation, and this is a whole lot of hoops for that. I pick up Frankie's every once in a while. That's my gas station I go to, and I've never ever, so I eyeball it, and I'm not seeing the problem that they are. So that's why I'm wondering if it was staff's recommendation. Did you do the traffic study, sir, that staff wanted, or no? Was this just
We've consulted with KOLA verbally. We know that they will write the report that has been requested, and we can do this particular configuration. This is the one that we have proposed.
Okay.
But we know that there were Plan Commission members that were interested in alternatives. We know that your engineer has discussed whether there's alternatives. We came up with one that we think that we could do, and we wanted to make sure that we at least offered it.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Brian.
What was the specific concern that the Plan Commission had as far as the flow? Was it they were going to go around to the window, go back around, and mistakenly not make a left and get stuck going back around the building? Was that the concern?
I think the biggest concern was that you're going to have traffic traversing on Route 64 that will be westbound. If they're turning into Circle K, they're definitely going to use the Circle K entry where the Circle K sign is. There was a concern that people who want to turn into Frankie's would miss the Frankie's entrance and then turn in either to go to Circle K or to go to Frankie's and be confronting traffic exiting from Frankie's trying to exit onto Route 64. The conflict there, because of the close proximity, was the concern. But as our traffic engineer said, the vehicles that are going to be leaving Frankie's will be driving at 2 and 3 miles per hour. Hopefully by the time they're making a right turn off of Route 64 into the Circle K entry, they will also be operating at a very low rate of speed. Is it perfect? It's not. You could design on a two-dimensional surface a better location. But we're dealing with retrofitting a fully operational restaurant facility with a drive-up window, and we sort of have to live within that envelope. So we're negotiating leases at the same time we're trying to rebuild the site, and it's redevelopment's got lots of moving parts.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just a quick one. I know you said you're waiting for results of a traffic study, correct? Are you still waiting for those results? Is that going to look at drive-through traffic, just drive-through traffic for picking up food? Because, hopefully COVID's in the rearview mirror now, but obviously, and I've seen it on Route 64, I'm sure everybody else has, there's been an abundance of cars, obviously just going to pick up food only. So I like the alternate plan that you have. I'm just a little, I'm curious about drive-through traffic flow, how it's going to if it's going to interrupt with regular traffic that's coming through there. Circular traffic, that is, yeah.
As an attorney, I don't do the traffic studies. I try to write them, but I leave that to the traffic engineer. So KLOA will write the report that's been requested by the staff for this configuration. If we're going to go to IDOT with the configuration that has the full ingress egress off of Route 64,
sure,
we're going to have to write a report for IDOT as well.
And then if this plan worked or was approved by the county, do you know how that would affect the right-in, right-out for the future Phase 2?
For the future Phase 2, that would be unaffected because the future Phase 2 currently has one curb cut for the Bosa Donuts and Jersey Mike's, and it will have one curb cut.
So that would stay the same?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, would you be willing, this is to the applicant and as their attorney, would you be willing to encumber that second phase and say that, let's say we did this, let's say everybody was in agreement that this works, but in the future, when Bosa and Jersey Mike's are developed, if they are, a connection would be made between that and the parking lot by Frankie's to allow people to come in and out of that entry. Would you be willing to encumber that in an agreement?
I couldn't quite catch the last end of that. I can tell you that the future Phase 2 is planned to continue the cross-access off the rear of the site. All of these facilities will have cross-access. So if you come in for Jersey Mike's, you can stop by Frankie's, you can stop by Circle K, or you can stop by Taco Bell, and vice versa. The whole plan is to create an off Route 64 traffic circulation that allows cross-access to the various facilities.
But I mean near the front, or Frankie's, when you come into Frankie's, you take a right in off of Main Street and you enter, would you be willing to say you can take another right turn to get to Bosa and Jersey Mike's development, or allow people cross-access along the front of the site as opposed to the rear?
We don't have a current configuration for the Phase 2. The site plan that we have prepared only has cross-access at the rear. It does not have cross-access at the front.
I guess that's my question. And would you be willing, would the ownership be willing to encumber that so that when that gets developed, they would make that connection along the front? And that's a question for you to go back and ask them. I'm not suggesting you to answer that today. I'm just raising that as a question.
Yeah. I'm not sure that I'm hearing this completely. If the question is whether the curb cut off of Route 64 is going to be right in only, the answer is no. The curb cut at Route 64 for the Bosa Donuts and the Jersey Mike's will be two ingress-egress. It will be an ingress and egress.
No, I get that. It's the right in, right out at Frankie's. When I pull in, I take a right in off of Main Street to go to Frankie's, but now I want to go to the right earlier in my drive down that driveway to the north. Instead, I want to turn right to Bosa and Jersey Mike's. If you're willing to do that, then I think you get people out either the full intersection at Bosa and Jersey Mike's, or Circle K, along the front of the site, which is more visible, more convenient, so on and so forth.
I'm sorry, I'm just
so
not...
basically connecting that Frankie's parking lot to the Bosa as opposed to the rear. He's saying more people, that would be another exit point going through that parking lot. Is that what you're saying, Dan?
Yes, exactly. Right there.
The exit, it would not be at that location. It would be at the north end of the site.
Well, that's what
I'm asking. The
connection
will be at the north end of the site.
Would they be willing to put it at that location where your cursor is?
We can't commit to that particular connection point this evening because we've already negotiated the lease with Frankie's, and that has not been one of the elements that has been negotiated. The negotiated cross-access between Frankie's and the future Bosa and Jersey Mike's site is at the north end of the property.
I got it.
So there would be two-direction ingress, egress at the north end. That cross-access is continued.
Okay.
All right, so we have the original plan, which was approved by IDOT, but we're still waiting on the traffic analysis assessment. And then we have the modified version, which is not approved by IDOT, and will still need the traffic analysis for our engineers to look at, correct?
Correct. And what we'd really like to do is hopefully get approval or a recommendation of approval for either of them, because we don't want to be stuck in the situation where we file the application for this, and 3 or 4 months later, we're still waiting for an approval from IDOT while the price of construction is skyrocketing for these projects. That's what we're really concerned about. We're very reluctant to go back to IDOT, but we will do so if you would prefer that we do so.
Gotcha. So we're looking to approve regardless with either option pending traffic analysis, correct? That way you have both options.
That's correct.
Correct?
That is the applicant's request. So the committee has a couple of choices. If you honor the applicant's request and grant the conditional approval, the second option would be a request to postpone recommendation contingent upon receiving the traffic consultant's evaluation.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like we can't even make a proper decision until we see the actual traffic analysis.
And staff would want our traffic consultant to review the information that we received in that. So
Okay, so
it's only at your discretion, or
Right.
whatever your comfort level is, so making a recommendation tonight, or postponing the recommendation.
Yeah.
okay. Go ahead, Rita.
Mr. Chairman, I'm guessing that getting a traffic study will happen a lot sooner than IDOT weighing in on the second.
It will.
Right, right. So if we get our traffic, which is the purpose of the traffic to deem the safety of the original? Is that kind of what the purpose is? So if that's safe, then that's what it is? Okay. So I'm okay with approving both and pending the traffic study, moving forward with that one if it looks safe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do I have are you making a motion to do that?
Sure, that's a motion.
It's a motion? Seconded by Alderman Lencioni. So obviously approval of both pending traffic analysis. Can I have a roll call vote on that, please?
Al-Qaeda?
Can I ask a question? Will we have a copy of that so we can study the traffic thing too? I mean, I like to see it before it goes to council.
It will become a public document as soon as we file it.
Thank you. Okay, then yes.
Leitner?
Yes.
Baumgarten?
Yes.
Bancroft?
Yes.
Lencioni?
Yes.
Trilla?
Yes.
Wirball?
Yes.
Fessner?
Yes.
Stellato?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Okay, moving right along, we have an update regarding the expiration of Crystal Loft PUD.
The Crystal Lofts PUD was approved by the city in December 2017 as a residential redevelopment of the Lamp Factory Industrial Building on South 13th Avenue and Indiana Avenue. The final plat of subdivision for the project was not recorded within the 3-year time frame following approval. And in December of 2020, at the developer's request, the city granted a 6-month extension for the recording of the plat. So that extension will expire on June 22nd. The developer is not requesting an additional extension. Therefore, the PUD approval will lapse at that time. As was noted in December, the property has been in a partially demolished state for an extended period, and there's been some complaints from neighbors regarding the property condition and site security. So the owners indicated they'd like to proceed with repairing the exterior of the building, restoring the site in order for the property to be put up for sale, and then a future owner could improve the interior of the building for reuse. So once the PUD expires, any building permits associated with the property will be voided, and then the property will need to be brought into compliance with the property maintenance code. The city's typical process would be to issue a notice of violation with a limited compliance window, and then staff would then pursue follow-up, which in the case of noncompliance may include administrative adjudication and assessing fines. Alternately, with direction from the committee, staff could provide a longer compliance period out of an interest of seeing the building preserved. Staff suggesting a 60-day time frame for the owner to submit plans, obtain a permit, and initiate work. Recognizing this is a unique situation, we're looking for that direction if there is an interest in allowing that longer compliance period. Alternately, we would follow a normal code enforcement process, and we have a representative of the ownership here who can speak as well.
Good evening. My name is Asher Walmark. The address is 1 Rotary Center, Evanston, Illinois, 60201. I am here representing Crystal Lofts, and as a follow-up to the letter submitted by Keith Dobbsbeck I wish to, first of all, thank the committee for their patience and the city of St. Charles for those that have been involved with the project. We have tried diligently to find a good solution over the extension period that the committee granted for a variety of reasons. I also serve, if I may, as the CEO of Kingsbury Capital, so I represent the investors also. And with $1.5 million already invested in the project, and it's essentially not having gotten off the ground yet, we decided to simply go in a different direction and let's get the building back up to shape so it's not creating a problem for the community. Let's get it in compliance, number one. Where we do have some ideas about what possibly we can do with the property going forward, you know, I must say that the idea of maybe a Casey's and a microbrewery combination, just throwing that out there. I've been listening. But on a very serious note, we wish to get going. I will tell you that I had a heart attack earlier in the year and spent some extended time in the hospital, so the delay is partially on me, but you know, the wheels kept turning. We just simply have not been able to find the suitable way to get this done as a residential project. So we think, you know, going back to something commercial, but first and foremost, I wish to assure the committee and the residents of St. Charles that we are going to get the property up to shape so that it's not an eyesore. I would ask the committee, forgive me, it's still going through recovery here. I would like to ask the committee to, if you would be gracious enough to allow us, without an extension, but as long as possible, to get that that window, if you will, you know, the 60-day window, I guess, is what it is. That would be very much appreciated, but, you know, we're going to roll, get it back in order, and then figure out what to do from there with the temperature coming down with regard to it not being in good shape, if you will, and creating some problems for the city of St. Charles.
What do you feel like you have to do to get it secured and closed up?
We got to put the windows in. The windows have been purchased already. Got to do the tuck pointing, got to put a new roof on, got to do landscaping. I understand that the fence has to be gotten rid of, either a new fence up or it's a different type of fence, but landscaping, roofing, tuck pointing, windows, those would be the primary items to get the building to compliance, if you will.
Any mechanicals or anything on the building, or just basically?
There would be temporary lighting put in the building.
Okay.
But again, you know, the idea is to get it so that, you know, if I'm leaving out something, it's not intentional, of course, but whatever is required to get the building to where it is suitable and not in non-compliance, that's goal number one.
Gotcha. So with the extension that was originally given, if we gave you, you basically asked for just to give you whatever amount of time that you want to be able to close this up?
No. I mean, not open-ended, if you will.
Okay.
Just, you know, whatever. I know I guess, and again, I just heard this as I was standing here. I guess there's a regular period of time that is considered to be the window, and then there's the staff recommendation of 60 days. You'll forgive me, I don't know the exact nuances of this, but whatever time is allowable at most without having, you know, clearly with a stop on it that doesn't require, you know, another 6 months. We're not looking for that.
Sure. Questions or comments on this? Go ahead, Brian.
I think this is a question for staff. You have 60 days in here. Is it the work has to commence within 60 days or be completed in 60 days?
The work would need to be underway within 60 days, so that would provide time for them to submit plans for permit, have those plans reviewed and the permit issued, so that the expectation would be that the work would be underway at the 60-day period.
Is there an end point? Like, is it 90 days, or does it just keep going, or how does that work?
Well, at that point, it would be an ongoing permit process.
Okay.
And once construction activity is initiated, then we would follow a normal
I see,
process.
okay.
Because at that point, they're presumably addressing all of the code violation issues that
Thank you.
exist.
And Russ, I had a question too, if I may. So after 60 days, if that's the number we stuck to and this wasn't complete, what's the process then? You'd have to start a process for non-compliance, and how long does that take? Would that be a month, 2 or 3 months?
It could extend over a longer period of time.
Mm-hmm.
If the committee's interest is in seeing a completion date, that's something that we could also include as part of this extension.
I think I'm just trying to find out a good medium to give some open time and not cut it off, and then we're, trying to follow up on non-compliance for 90 or 120 days, and then we're just going on for 6 months anyway. So I'm looking for a happy medium, so that's all. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead, Mr. Salato.
Yeah, and obviously, Ron and I are in Ward 1. We're the ones that get the calls, but in 60 days, I would expect we would see hopefully significant progress, some photographs, a PowerPoint presentation of what's been done. I think that's the expectations I would look for some input, from the neighbors as to, hey, I see some progress over there, some positive comments. If that's not done in 60 days, then I think you've got another discussion. If it is done and the council's comfortable in moving forward with a longer extension, we can then see what progress and how good you feel at that time. But at 60 days, I expect to see some real progress and some proof that something is really done.
Thank you, Dan. Can you speak to that? Do you feel like within 60 days you can formulate a solid plan with dates and stuff like that?
So the response would be as follows. So what's really required here is we have to go back to the investors and make a capital call. And, that's kind of, if you will, under the hood. I mean, I know it's not necessarily relevant to the committee, but with regard to, the capital to go ahead and outfit the project now, we have to go ahead and create a capital call. It typically takes, if you will, 45 days from where we are right now to get that done, okay? Now, that having been said, certainly it can be pushed a little quicker if it needs to be, but most importantly, or I should say equally as important, to the extent that we can show progress, with regard to, and I think I heard the idea of having drawings and plan for what we're going to do, that we can provide well in advance of 45 days. I do believe that we can certainly show some progress with regard to construction within 60 days. I just don't know how much, but, funds raised, a plan, a viable plan put forward, and work having begun.
What materials do you currently have on site for the project?
I believe the only thing that's on site right now are the windows.
Okay. I know there's trailers in there. I wasn't sure about.
Yeah, there's $200,000 worth of windows sitting there that desperately need to be put in. It's like anything else, you buy something new and you just let it sit and it starts to rot.
Sure.
So, the idea is to really just get the windows in, get the building refitted so that the walls are solid, it's tuck pointed, new joists, new roofing system, temporary lighting, landscaping. I don't mean to be repetitive.
So you have $1.5 million into it right now. What do you think you have to raise to do all that?
Phase one is probably another $700,000. There's some talk, if you will, about, public storage, this and that. But again, just discussions amongst the management group. Issue one is getting to compliance.
So, go ahead, Ryan.
So is the plan to get the building up to compliance so that you guys can sell it, or is it truly to try and make something of this that we'll be back here talking about a commercial space or a storage space, it's residential?
I would like to tell you that we'll be back to talk about a commercial space. that's the goal here. I'm not convinced. So, well, let me tell you what I am convinced of. I am convinced that with the significant increase in real estate prices, the demand for housing, and the follow-on demand for everything around housing, I mean, it's just a great time to have a project like this. I mean, we've had the benefit of a very hot real estate market and just in general a very hot market behind us, notwithstanding the fact that it's going to cost more to build the project because raw materials have gotten so expensive. But that aside, there is an opportunity to still do something very nice with this property and not walk away from what I still feel is a very good opportunity to do something, even if it is on the commercial side. So yeah, I'd say that we'll be back to do something commercial. I need buy-in from investors, and just like the committee and the townspeople are unhappy with the lack of anything going on, the investors are angry also. Everybody wants to see progress, so we got to get on our horse and just get something done.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we do grant a 60-day extension, and in the P&D meeting in August, whatever that date is, that we get a report card, see how we're doing on it.
Yeah.
If there's been no progress made, then we'll have to take the next step. If there is progress made, we can discuss any future possible extensions.
Go ahead, Todd.
Yeah,
I'll second that.
Okay, it's moved and seconded.
So I'll second it. Yeah, I'm supportive of it. I guess a few things. Number one, I'm happy that your health has recovered and that you're before us. I think that's great. I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Second, you're coming to us afterwards for time. You've given us a quick outline of what things that need to be done with the project. The project's a disaster.
Agreed.
I mean, it's not that it's delayed, and it's not that there's frustration that something's happened. The place is a disaster. And so, that's just honesty. And so I'm a little dismayed that you didn't come before us with, here's the plan, here's my time frame, and here's, and we're good to go. So it's a little frustrating to hear that I have to hear a motion in a second with, the idea that we need to have a report card. I mean, Ron's right, we need one, I guess, but, when I step before bodies like this, I usually have a plan and a timeline, and it's disappointing that you don't have it.
Mr. Bancroft, this is the last time I'll do this. Okay. I will not disappoint you again.
Question?
Go ahead.
So if we don't grant the extension, what happens?
Staff, if we don't grant the extension, what happens?
Carried down.
On the 22nd, we would issue a notice of violation for any code violations that exist there today with a limited compliance time frame. It's typically 7 to 14 days. It would be up to the applicant or property owner to determine how to bring the property into compliance.
How long do they have to do that?
So they would have the opportunity to respond to our notice.
Close to 60 days?
It typically is shorter. It would depend on whether they can demonstrate some progress to warrant any further extension, or whether the city would proceed with enforcement and potentially taking the property owner to adjudication. But there is a process to be followed for that.
So you're familiar with the enforcement that happened on Prairie?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, my kids are 25.
Well,
enforcement can take a long...
Right, well, so I mean, if we don't look at an extension, and we say, no, here's your violation notice, you gotta get moving, things don't happen overnight. You'll probably get to 60 days, and then you could potentially come back in response and say, look at how far we've come. My concern is, you go down this rabbit hole, 60 days turns into a September, and it's taking us a long time, like, there's your shot across the bow, like, you gotta get moving.
Well, I'm the first person to agree that we have to get moving, and I'm the one that is going to get moving on this. Again, I think had it not been for some health issues, because I'm really the one responsible for making sure that the capital is available to get this done. Being out of pocket a little bit, not looking for charity here, but the 60-day, and by the way, I am very happy to make sure that we present drawings and whatnot sooner than the 60 days. So I'm not looking to come back in 60 days and hand you a book and say, this is what we're going to do. I expect to be significantly down the road, and to Mr. Bancroft's satisfaction and the entire committee's satisfaction that we are making progress, period. No excuses or, games.
Okay.
Chairman,
We have a,
Chairman, I got.
go ahead, Paul.
And I'm sorry, because I think we've gotten there, but as a new member, and I've heard about this for a long time, how did we get here? Like, how did I get that way? Because we're in a situation where you're asking for time, but, I mean, I'm looking for a little history and understanding.
Be very
Briefly.
Okay. So I started out on this project as nothing more than the development group came to me and said, would you raise capital for this project? And my answer was yes. And we raised $1.5 million for the project. I was not part of the development group, nor was I a manager on Crystal Lofts. If I may jump to the end real quick, the reason I am a manager on Crystal Lofts now is because I'm tired of the no activity, okay, and I have to get something done. There were issues with regard to what was, as I understand, there were issues with regard to what was found in terms of contamination after the property was bought. It supposedly wasn't known. There were a number of changes that were made. I understand there was some back and forth between what the city of St. Charles was looking for versus what had originally been budgeted. There were a variety of what I would describe as unacceptable, unfortunate circumstances, and what seemed to be, a simple project turned into what you have, appropriately described as a disaster, okay? And then COVID hit, and here we are. I wish I could offer more color than that, but something's got to get done. It's too good of an opportunity for it not to. It is ridiculous that it hasn't, and it's just period. Got to get done. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and offer mea culpas and all kinds of craziness.
I appreciate the catch-up.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second on the floor right now.
Excuse me, Chairman, can I get some clarity on the motion? What is is it to report back?
60-day extension. So
And to report back in 60 days?
correct.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Can I please have a vote on that?
Kulkaitis,
Yes.
Leitner,
Yes.
Bongard,
No.
Bancroft,
Yes.
Lencioni,
Yes.
Trilla,
Yes.
Wirball,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Salato.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. 50 days. Please don't be disappointed, sir.
Thank you very much, and y'all have a good evening.
All righty. Additional business. I know we have no need to go into executive session tonight. I know we do have a comment by Mayor Vitek. So.
Yep, sorry, it's past 9 o'clock, and normally this wouldn't be at P&D, but just so everyone knows, I know you all received a letter regarding the clean energy bill, and legislators are back at the floor working on it, and we believe there will be a vote tomorrow with the primary, they're back down there with the primary purpose for this clean energy bill reform. So Peter Sir, Chris Adesso, Paul Hopkins, Chris Minnick, and Chief Keegan all put together this letter. We've reached out to legislators. Today, our lobbyist went down and submitted a slip in opposition, and I just need to read a couple things into the record. So I won't go through the letter. I just want to read a couple bullet points so that if there's any media on today, they know how important that, we support obviously clean energy as a municipality. However, the time frame for us is just not, 2035 is not doable without extreme costs to our residents and to our city of St. Charles. So we've asked for them to consider a time frame of 2050, and a couple of the bullet points are just that with this bill at 2035, this will be an expected additional cost of over $2 million if Prairie State closes. In regards to resident customers, this will cost our residents $200 more annually. For commercial customers, the expected average annual additional cost per customer is $4,732 if Prairie State closes. And for industrial customers, the expected average annual additional cost per customer is over $208,000. Our largest industrial customer of St. Charles is Smithfield Foods, and their expected additional annual cost if Prairie State closes is close to $800,000. The City of St. Charles is a municipality utility providing reliable energy to its residents. Again, we're not opposed to clean energy, but we are just in the time frame that the current bill sits. We are not supportive of 2035 due to the costs we have. So if you have any questions, Chris Minnick is available, but just wanted to read that into the record tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Babcock. All righty. Well, with that, I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
So moved.
Moved by Brian Werbaugh, seconded by David Petrilla. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Like a note.